We'll go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to the July 6, 2015 meeting for the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners. My name is Kevin Cook. I serve as the chair of the commission, also representing District 2. Joining me today is Commissioner Shelley Bueller, representing District 1.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Bob Archer, representing District 3. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hope everybody had a happy 4th of July and ready to get back to work. So with that, Madam Clerk, our first item.
First item is item 3, consent agenda.
Is there any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion made by Commissioner Archer to approve the consent agenda as presented, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Next item.
Item 4, new business A, county clerk, number 1. There are no vouchers today, right? Okay, so there. Let's see. And we do have correction versus item A2.
I'll make a motion to approve the correction orders.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Next item.
Item B, facilities maintenance, number 1. Consider authorization and execution of contract C 252-2015 with Hammond Asphalt to overlay the alley on the north side of the courthouse with 1.5 to 2 inches of asphalt for a sum of $6,385 to be funded from the Capital Deferred Maintenance Fund. And the county clerk would like to have you vote in favor of this. Oh, just I just thought I'd put a plug in for you.
Well, thank you. I Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance. You've seen the alley.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely needs some help. This is the best we could do, price-wise.
Well, I mean, but Bill, I bought my Jeep with the intent of being able to navigate the alleys in the city of Topeka roads.
Well,
In all honesty, it needs to be
yeah,
done.
it's pretty bad. It should buy us some time. 10, 15 years if we get her done.
Questions?
Yeah, I don't question that it needs to be done. My question is, have we done business with Hammond Asphalt before? And the reason I asked is because their fee is so much lower than Bettis and All-American. I think Bettis was $9,300 and All-American was $9,800, and this is an outfit that's going to charge us $6,385. What's the explanation of the difference? Do you?
I think he's just really hungry, and Bettis and All-American really aren't. He's a little smaller outfit. He doesn't have all the equipment that they probably have, so he doesn't have the overhead. So I think he can do it a little bit less.
But we've done business with these folks before?
Not that I'm aware of.
I see Tom Flanagan.
Yeah, I was going to ask Tom. I said.
No.
They haven't contracted with Public Works for any projects.
Okay. Bill, do we have the ability, I mean, have you checked references, and is that part of what we would do as professional services?
Yeah, I've called a couple of his clients, and they were very satisfied with him. Usually small jobs, strip malls and things is what he's done, and that alley kind of seemed right up his alley. That's right.
I do have a couple of questions.
Yes, Commissioner Bueller.
Thank you. Bill, mine would be the base of the alley as far as, do we need to do the whole alley or just portions of it?
We're going to be doing the whole alley from curb to curb. The base of it is still primarily brick, original, probably 1900, and extremely strong, but everything is kind of potholed around it. There was an overlay done at some point, and that's really what's potholed the worst. There's a lot of asphalt that's on that overlay.
Normally, cities then have responsibility for the alley, correct? Normally,
Yep.
but at some point back, if my history is right, the county acquired this. I think I voted against it for this
Yeah.
reason, because the cities usually maintain the alleys. But yeah, it does need some.
The first person I checked with was Ron Raines at the street department, and he kind of chuckled at me and said, "Nope, that one's yours." So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Pleasure of the commission. Commissioner Richard?
Are you confident that this will be done successfully?
Oh, yes.
And all that's, okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve.
Absolutely.
A second.
There's been a motion made by Commissioner Archer to approve the expenditure, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Next item.
Item B2, consider approval of request to solicit bids to replace the carpet in the District Attorney's Office second floor at a sum not to exceed $50,000 from the Capital Deferred Maintenance Fund.
If you've been to the second floor and looked at the DA's office, it's bad, and it's really embarrassing to a point. There's stains that will not come out of the current carpet that's up there. There's some what we call zippering. The carpet's torn, and it's a threat to trip on. It's delaminated in some areas, which there's no repairing a delaminated carpet. Once it comes loose from the backing and the backing's stuck to the concrete, you're not going to put them back together again. So it's a trip hazard waiting to happen, and I'd hate to see somebody fall and give us a problem. What I'd like to replace it with is carpet tile. That's really the thing that's been going more than anything in commercial uses versus broad loom. If you have a stain, you can remove the tile, put a new one down. It's just pressure sensitive, so you can move them around if they start to show wear patterns. So it's really a long-term solution that I think would be beneficial to us.
Bill, I noticed that, I agree with you that the District Attorney's Office is getting rather worn, but so are many of the courtrooms.
Oh, yeah.
And are we developing a plan? I know that the court, during their budget presentation, talked about addressing one courtroom at a time and developing a plan to address the needs of the courts.
Yes. I'm working with Kathy Leonhardt on those things. She's working on some issues for just some basic courtroom remodels. And we have carpet all over the place. It's in pretty bad shape. North Annex is in extremely bad shape there too. But in looking at, to me, what the priorities would be, I'd say we need to start with the District Attorney's Office.
Yeah, questions?
Just on the same lines as far as overall carpet needs and prioritizing them and what the total cost we are estimating. I don't know if we have a number for that, do we?
No, I don't have a number for that
I
yet.
think that's something that we need to take a look at as we're talking about that deferred maintenance, set aside money that we have and making
Yeah.
sure we use it.
I think by starting here, and the $50,000, it kind of depends on what type of carpet tile we would end up getting. It's a ballpark number I'm throwing out there based on experience now, but if we get some bids in, it'll give us a lot better idea of what we'd have in the future, cost per square foot.
Move approval.
There's been a motion made by Commissioner Bueller for approval,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, passes 3-0. Next item.
Item B3, consider authorization and execution of contract C-253-2015 with AT Recycling, Inc. for the disposal of hazardous waste as defined by the EPA at a sum not to exceed $1,000 annually.
We've not been taking care of our hazardous waste the way we should. We're a commercial generator. I checked with solid waste, and they were kind of surprised we were still discarding our lamps in the current solid waste stream. They should be handled and recycled as much as they can to get the mercury and fluorescent out of them, or phosphorus, excuse me. So this contract would put us with ATEC Recycling out of Iowa. They currently recycle the lamps for the city of Topeka, ballast, things like that are considered hazardous waste. They do it on a cost per pound basis. I think you have a copy of that agreement with the show. Estimating on how much we would discard from the courthouse, North Annex, and the areas that I'm responsible for, I figured it wouldn't cost us more than $1,000 a year to do that.
Any questions regarding this item?
Move to approve the contract.
I'll second.
I do have a
Commissioner
question.
Bueller, yes.
Bill, and it mentions but not, includes but not limited to the fluorescent lamps, batteries and computer equipment, but I know that in discussions with household hazardous waste that they do batteries and they're talking about possibly doing computer equipment. So is that $1,000 estimate then just for?
It's pretty much facilities is what I estimated it at. But we didn't have any kind of agreement at all, so the other departments, if they would have used this contract, would pay on that cost per pound basis.
Okay, but it's cost per pound.
Yeah.
Not to exceed. Okay, all right, thank you.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Next item. Thank you, Bill.
Item C, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C 254-2015 with Brian Merrick, DBA, the Wooden Racket, for management of the Crossover Tennis Complex for a sum of $37,000 per year for a term that expires March 31st, 2016, and to be paid in monthly payments of $3,083.33 and $1,000 yearly for court supplies.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. If this sounds familiar, this item has been before you before. We've been contracting with Ryan Merrick, the Wooden Racket, for several months now. The reason this is back in front of you is the Crossover Tennis Center is part of what was formerly Winter Park, now Felker Park, which was a federal lands to parks program in which we need the sign-off from the National Park Service. So we went from a 3-page contract that Mr. Berzon wrote up to, I'm not quite sure how thick this one is, but we now comply with the National Park Service and the use of that land. Randy Luby's here if you have any specific questions regarding the contract. I will say that Ryan's doing a terrific job over at the Crossover Tennis Center.
Questions regarding this? I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Ryan Merrick, doing business as the Wooden Racket.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you, John. Next item.
Item D, Audit Finance. Number 1, consider authorization to sell various surplus parks and recreation equipment through the Purple Wave auction site.
Good morning. Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. As you know, we have been using Purple Wave to sell our surplus, and this request is to sell these items that we have listed, some vehicles, mowers, and such that the Parks and Rec Department has put into surplus. So I'm asking your approval to move ahead on this.
Any questions regarding this request? I'll make a motion to approve the authorization to sell various surplus park and recreation equipment.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Thank you. Next item.
Item E, Sheriff's Office. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C 255-2015 with Motorola Solutions for a 5-year service agreement for the P25 emergency radio system for the sum of $1,139,907 paid annually from 911 funds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lance Royers with the Sheriff's Office. If you remember, back in 2012, we purchased a $12.2 million radio system for public safety. Today, we have about 6,100 radios on that system. As of May, the radio calls on that system are 4,128,231 radio calls. Probably about, as of today, probably about 4.5 million radio calls on that system. So it's working wonderfully for us. 100% completion on all those calls. So that's about 12,700 clicks of the radio mic a day is what that system's doing. Before you is a 5-year contract paid annually for maintenance of that system. It is definitely not the Cadillac system. We cut it way back from the original proposal that Motorola gave us. With the radio shop that we have, we can do majority of the work ourselves. What this does is a lot of monitoring of the system. It tells us when things are broken, tells us when things are down. It gives us 24/7, 365, pick up the phone, call Motorola for our technicians to help us to fix the system if there's anything wrong with it. Replacement parts, we have several parts on hand. If something goes down, we swap it out, put the new one in off the shelf, and send it in, and they repair it under this contract. So I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Any questions regarding this 5-year contract? Pleasure of the Commission.
Move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller for approval.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0. Next item.
Item E2, consider authorization to upgrade and increase pay ranges for existing senior communication systems engineer position to a radio network administrator the existing communications engineer to assistant radio network administrator, and the existing communications technician to radio network technician to adhere more closely to the responsibilities now required to maintain new P25 radio system.
Again, Commissioners, Lance Royer with the Sheriff's Office. This proposal is to rework our 3 positions down there, their position descriptions, get them more in line with operating the system of this technology, and we increase the salary ranges just a little bit. I can tell you we'll stay within our budget amount. The 2 people that were in 2 of these slots, Stan Blanchard and Marion Brown, they were way up here at the top of the scale because they've been here for both over 30 years. Both have retired now. Marion technically retires at the end of next month, or end of this month. He's taking vacation this month because he had some built-up vacation and PL days. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions regarding this request? And Commissioner Archer? Yes.
Did you have something?
I was just going to note that you did consult with Human Resources regarding this adjusting these and how they fit within the scales established with Human Resources.
Yes, I did.
Commissioner Archer?
I just wanted to say I'm not going to support this request. Essentially, I think it's premature. We're doing a compensation study that is going to be looking at all our positions and how they should be rightfully paid. So I think it's premature. I think it's not worthwhile until the compensation study is done and we look at all our positions. So I'll be voting no.
And then, that is a good point or question to you. What is the need to address this today versus waiting until September, October?
Right now, I have 1 person in the radio shop, and it's a shop for 3, and we need to reclassify these positions to be able to go out and fill them. Talking to Mr. Crowell, our plan is, if this is approved today, to put these in the study and see where they come up. We think that the salaries will be in line with what we're finding other places. We looked at Johnson County, we looked at the state, we looked at Sedgwick County. All of those folks, Reno County, all those folks have radio shops. We're still below several of those here with this salary scale. Again, the money that we're actually going to be spending will be below what our current budget is because of the people that were in those positions. But the job descriptions that were there don't fit what the duties are today, and we really would like to fill those 3 positions because, like I said, I got 1 person for a 3-person radio shop right now.
But is the current classification prohibiting you from being able to hire on?
I guess it wouldn't prohibit us, but as soon as we hire somebody, that's not going to be their job. I mean, they look at the position description, they think that interests them, they get hired for it, and it may change the position description as soon as it gets approved through the salary schedule, I guess, that's what the commission pleases.
So what would be the harm in just altering the description versus the salary scale and waiting on the scale? Are you just not, I mean, again, I go back to, is this a matter of us not being able to hire on qualified staff at this time to get the right applicants, or is it just that you want a job description that meets with what the job is going to be?
It's both. We want the salary up just a little bit to meet what we think the job description is. We need the job descriptions, absolutely.
Commissions?
Well, in all due respect, I think doing a comparison with Johnson and Sedgwick County is not really fair at this point. Until we have a compensation study, I think this action will circumvent the compensation study, and again, I strongly oppose it.
Well, Commissioner Archer, I think it's important to note that during the budget discussion for the local health agency, the health agency was looking at their staffing levels, their compensation, and we had a likewise conversation at that time about waiting to look at our compensation until the budget came out. We had the same discussion with the Department of Corrections. I anticipate this being a reoccurring discussion throughout all the budget hearings, and so that as we budget for wages, having a set amount set aside for wages, knowing that we would have the ability to have it compensated appropriately. And I guess maybe a question for our Human Resources Director.
Jim Crowley, Interim Human Resources Director.
Jim, is there a way for us to be able to change the job descriptions now
Sure.
so that we get the right applicants? Because I hear that coming from the sheriff's office saying, I don't want to advertise for doing job A when really they're doing job B.
Sure, we can do that without changing the range, reclassifying the range of the position,
And then
and adjusting the salaries at this point. We can change the job descriptions and advertise for those descriptions and keep them at their current pay level if that's what you would prefer to do.
And I think it's fair to say that all jobs, from department heads to the interim workers, is being examined.
Elected officials.
Elected officials included. This is not a one department review. Commissioner Bueller, do you have thoughts?
No, I just want to ask County Councilor Rich Eckert, as far as on the record, since this is a request by an elected official, then what are the limits?
We control anything that has to do with how they're classified, union, non-union, all those things. So we control the position description. What we don't control is the money. So once the budget's been set, the sheriff's free to do whatever they want, unless the salary is in a wage scale, which I believe these positions are. So therefore, it does need your approval in order to increase the wage of those employees.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Is that, any additional questions?
No, I'm just, is there any reason we could defer it and as they suggested?
No, I mean, today, if you change the position descriptions, we can post those positions, which will help us immensely.
Okay.
I think we could adjust the salary scale, be better to get better applicants, but absolutely, you could do it this way.
It would be my pleasure to, or my preference, and I guess my pleasure is not the right word, but my preference, it would be my preference to change the job descriptions at this time so that we're advertising for a job that we're filling, rather than one that you can't advertise to do job A and then tell people they're doing job B. So, but holding off on the classification of the wages until we complete the compensation study. I think that's the only fair thing to do, considering that that's what we're doing for every other department in the county.
We can make that work,
So,
Commissioners.
Commissioner Bueller,
Was that a motion?
that is a motion.
Second. Second.
Well, I can support that. That makes sense.
So, this time there's a motion made by Commissioner Cook to change the job description, not changing salary scale. Seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes 3-0.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Next item.
Item F, Information Technology. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of Contract C 256-2015, an amendment to Contract C 231-2007 with SunGuard to include an employee shift scheduling component to be used initially by the Department of Corrections as a replacement for the mainframe-based shift scheduler application currently in use at a cost of $37,460.
Morning, Commissioners. Pat O'Blainer with the Information Technology Department. As mentioned in the memo, we are working towards replacing all of the remaining applications on the mainframe in anticipation of retiring that as soon as possible. This is one of the few remaining applications on that system. We would like to amend the contract that's in place with SunGuard for the IFAS system to include the scheduling component that the Department of Corrections currently uses. That's based on the mainframe. We'd like to get this moved off of this onto another system, and SunGuard offers this as an option for us to go with. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I might note that Commissioner Archer, Pat and I spoke last week about getting Pat onto the schedule for a presentation on the virtualization, just to walk through what has been done and where we stand as far as the virtualization. And so we're finding a spot in the schedule for presentations for that. But as to this item, are there any questions? I'll make a motion to approve the request then.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook to approve the request, second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. All opposed? It passes 3-0. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Our next item.
Item G, County Councilor. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of Contract C 257-2015 for the purchase of property at 2600 Southwest East Circle Drive, Topeka, Kansas, for use as the future Shawnee County Local Health Department building.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rich Eckert, Shawnee County Counselor. What you have before you is a contract that would transfer title from a building that the state of Kansas owns that's basically at 4th and McVicker to Shawnee County for use as our local health department. We have a list of criteria. It's been a long search to get here. There aren't a lot of buildings for sale that meet this criteria. Very, very few, and this is one of them. There are some particular paragraphs that I want to go through, though, for your review and the public so that everybody knows what we're getting into. The first one is that the purchase price is $1,200,000. We had a typo there, but that is the actual price, $1.2 million. Whenever the state of Kansas sells a building or any property, really, they have to get appraisals as part of their internal regulations. And they had 3 independent appraisers come together, and they determined the value of that building to be $1.4 million. So in the negotiation process, we sort of a little bit disagreed with that appraisal, but it is what it is. In order to get that price down to the $1.2 million, we had to do a couple other things, and that's what I'll go over next. I would point out that the closing in paragraph 7, it calls for 75 days, which is a little bit longer than we've seen in normal contracts, and that's because we have a couple of things to do, so we gave us a couple extra days on the closing. If we can't do the things that are contained in paragraphs 26 and 27, then we walk away from this contract, and I want to be very clear about that, because there are a couple things we have to do here. But if we can't do what we promised or the state can't do what they've promised, then we walk away from this contract. However, we're going to work very hard to try to get there. So everything else is boilerplate language, and then you get to 26. The building doesn't have the best parking in the world. So in the state, as you know, they're moving people around left and right throughout our city, and they had a location where they don't have sufficient parking that's right next to the Ruger softball complex. So going through 26, the state has another building next to this one, and that's where their Department of Labor exists. And that is actually one of the locations where they're going to keep their employees. That building is full, and they've decided to keep that. The building that we're buying only has, I believe, 26 parking spots out in front, which is, of course, drastically inadequate for the customers that the health agency serves. So the Department of Labor has agreed to give us 50 stalls right there. They're right in front of our building. So that pumps up our parking for our customers up into the mid-70s. However, we have to replace those 50, and we still need even more parking. So on the back side of the Department of Labor building, and when I say that, I mean to the west and slightly to the north, there's vacant ground that's owned by 501. So we're negotiating, even as we speak, with 501 to purchase a sliver of land. It's our intent to build a parking lot there and give the state of Kansas back their 50 stalls on that side. So that's what basically the first paragraph of 26 accomplishes. That parking lot will be built by us. We'll give an easement to the state of Kansas. However, the maintenance is going to be split 50-50. And it should need maintenance for quite some time, but when that occurs, we're going to split the maintenance on that. Now, the state is going to move into the old Dillon's grocery store. I don't believe that's a secret at this point in time. That's located in between Topeka and Kansas on 29th Street. That store had been abandoned by Kroger a couple years ago. They don't have sufficient parking there, and they would like 50 stalls from the Ruger softball complex. Now, I've had a couple of conversations with Mr. Knight. I had a rather detailed conversation with him last week. Mr. Knight, never being one to let something slip by him, made me promise to do a couple things for him that we don't need to talk about at the podium, but that it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be, so I have agreed to do those things.
Are you going to stop making fun of him for saying master plan?
No, I'm actually going to double down on that. So master plan should be satisfied. But he did reserve the right to grumble from time to time, so we need to recognize that. So those 50 stalls are not going to be used or they're going to be used by the state of Kansas at hours that we don't use them. That's a softball complex. We play softball there from 6:15. People get there about 5:30. So it's not a daytime parking lot. So the two users should not conflict. One thing I did point out is that we don't use that parking lot in the winter, so there's no reason for us. I mean, it would be an extra cost and quite a severe one if we had to be there instantly when it snows. So you'll see some language in there that the state of Kansas is going to be responsible for the removal of that, and that's not going to be an added cost to the Parks and Rec Department. They're also going to defend and indemnify us. Somebody slips and falls on that property, they're going to take care of it. There are going to be some modifications on the Kroger side of it. They have to build a sidewalk, so forth and so on. But again, that's going to be the state of Kansas' responsibility. So we shouldn't have a dollar invested in any of that. So that's pretty much the summation of paragraph 26. Paragraph 27, much like you've heard our IT department talk about getting optic fiber to our buildings, the state of Kansas needs to get fiber out to the Dillons. They've noticed that the Landon Trail runs from downtown to right next to their building. So they've asked for an access to our Landon Trail. Of course, we don't own Landon Trail outright, but we practically do. We have a very strong easement with the Rails to Trails Conservancy. We're actually doing another document with them to point out that we have the right to do this and that we have the exclusive use of this easement. And so I think Jim Krause is going to be bringing that document forward to you here pretty shortly, but they've wrapped up those negotiations. But that's part and parcel of this as well, will be that document that's tagging along behind. And that is the high points of this contract. It's been a long and arduous journey, but we're here.
Rich, I think it's important to note, and I'm going to take just a moment to talk to and address the public, but also those, the media. The Capitol Journal last year noted that how many times the commission had gone into executive session over the last year, and noted that the county commission met in executive session more times than the city council. Not that that really is comparing apples to apples, but nevertheless, when we go into executive session, it's for listed items that we really can't discuss at the time in public. As we conclude those items, where there's okay to talk about it, I think we should probably address why we went into executive session. And I think that for the public to know, this is an item that we spent a lot of time in executive session on. It dealt with consultations with our attorney. It also dealt with contracts and the purchase of real estate, all of which are covered by the exemptions for executive session. Rich, just to kind of, if I miss a point along the way to how we got to this point, the county commission 4 years ago, 3 years ago, agreed to sell the main clinic to Stormont Vale West, or Stormont Vale, sorry. And the purchase price was $3 million, with the idea of us relocating to a new facility for the health agency and the health department. At that time, we were, yes.
And I would point out that there was an appraisal that existed out there that had this building appraised at, I believe, at $1.8 million.
So we purchased, we had sold the building for $3 million. The building was appraised at 1.8. At that time, we were looking for a building in excess of 40,000 square feet for both departments to go into. We started looking at 29th and Topeka Boulevard, the Dillons. We looked at other large buildings across the city of Topeka, some more friendly than others. I think Rich still has some.
My asbestos cough is now starting to clear up. I would point out that we thought we had we were this close to a building, and as a matter of fact, we thought we had one bought, and then it was leased out from underneath us without our knowledge. That set us back a good year.
So we had looked at a lot of different commercial space. Some of the restrictions are we have federal requirements of where we could fall for that space. And so when you start looking at large spaces in Topeka that are accessible to the public, that have parking stalls, having a building with 60,000 square feet and 6 parking stalls just wasn't going to work. Some buildings were more manageable, more ability to move into than others. And so when we started negotiations with this building, it's taken us a long time to get this contract, appraisals that had to go through, negotiations with, as you said, parking lots, fiber, to get us to this point here today. I also just want to note that when a period ran out with Stormont, we have been paying rent to Stormont in the range of $20,000 per month. This has been eating into our ability, that $3 million. So with the $3 million, we've paid for appraisals, we've paid for architect designs, review by the architects, and the $20,000 a month. And I'm looking to Betty. We still have money left within that $3 million for the purchase of this building, for renovations to the building, some, and potentially maybe even the parking lot, depending on how we manage our funds. Without the need potentially of taking out large debt or any debt regarding the health clinic. It's also important to note with the safety net, we no longer needed twice as much space. We were using half as much space, so it would be just for the health agency. Also with the health agency utilizing the Shawnee North Annex and the
10th Street Clinic.
10th Street, the Thorn Building. So, and thank you, Allison, for all of your work trying to figure out how you can manage all the people and the resources. So, just again, I think it's important to note when we get to a point where we can talk about this in transparency in government, we should. It's not that we go back into Commissioner Bueller's office and we sit back and talk about the weather and how John Knight's doing mowing lawns. So it's about business. And so I think this is a point where we can talk about the business that we've been doing. Commissioner Bueller.
I just might add, there were a lot of moving parts to this, and with the sensitivity to, Allison, I'm gonna, if you come up here too, because I think you need to be up here. With the sensitivity to our staff, our employees, and trying to make sure they were informed as well, that was important. But there were a lot of things that were happening after that building was sold. The beginning of the safety net discussion took a good year
Absolutely.
and a half almost.
Yes.
And so thus our footprint was a lot smaller that we needed to find for local health department and then community. The health center will be in a separate location as yet to be determined. But so you have any comments?
I just want to thank Rich for the negotiations. I know this was a very difficult building to try to access and actually come to terms. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. We're very excited. Staff are just heard on Friday about this new location, so it's very new to staff right now, even though we know that we've been looking at a variety of buildings. But as much as we wanted to be able to share, we needed to make sure that we were doing it at the right time. We will be working very, very quickly, I think, to get plans developed so that we can get in there as soon as possible. I know that the Safety Net Summit and the work of the Community Health Center is moving very quickly as well. So I just think it's going to be a very busy time, and just kind of hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might just add that I think it's a nice location.
It's beautiful.
And
Yes.
with the emphasis on public health, population
Yes.
health, and what 501 is doing on that property, and Stormont has another facility that they're putting up there. It's easily accessible to a lot of people, visual, so I think it's a really good location.
I would agree. I think the partnerships that can develop are just going to be that much stronger. I think we're already working with 501 on various things, and I think this will open doors for other opportunities. The grounds themselves for staff are going to be fantastic. They'll be able to get out and engage in physical activity in a safe environment. People will be able to come, hopefully very easily with access, public transportation, all those nice things will have to get figured out, but we're really excited about what we can do.
I do want to take a moment and thank Commissioner Archer for your work as the chair last year. You know, I get to put on the agenda the purchase of the building, but there's a lot that led up to this point, and thank you for your leadership as the chair last year and keeping the process moving along, keeping us focused on the purchase of the building, you know, and keeping us focused on what the needs of the county are. So thank you, Commissioner Archer. Do you have any comments?
I do, and thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for your clarification. I've had many people have asked me why I voted to sell the health agency building. Simply put, I didn't. The health agency building was sold before Commissioner Cook and I were elected, so I wanted to make sure that that was understood. I do have a question for the county councilor. At one point, the requirement was 40,000 square feet. This building's 23,000 square feet. How is that going to be accommodating to our needs? Are we going to have to add on to that building? How much are we going to pay altogether for the health agency move in the building?
First of all, dealing with the square footage, in the middle of this process, it was decided to seek another partner for the FQHC. They roughly have about half of the space that's in the present building. So our needs shifted about a year ago. Our search shifted when we realized that the FQHC was not going to be part of this move. So we no longer needed that much square footage. Two other decisions have been made that helps with the square footage. A significant portion of the local health department, the environmental side, resides at the Shawnee County North Annex, and they're going to remain there underneath the current plans. So that saved several thousand square feet. And then, and Ms. Alejos can tell you the more specifics of this, but we're going to keep the 10th Street Clinic, the Thorne building. Currently, the FQHC utilizes that building. Now we're going to move parts of the LHD to that building. So we did those two things that helped, or three things, which really alleviated the square footage crunch. Now, as to your second question, if I gave you a number, I don't know that it would be how good it would be. We'll have better numbers shortly. And hopefully we're going to have those numbers within this 75-day period. We're going to have the parking lot squared away within the 75 days. That's part of the deal. So we will have that number before we close. The bigger number will be how much rehab do we have to do to the building. And we're meeting, I talked with the architect last week. I'm going to talk with the architect this week. That'll be the next piece that we're waiting on, is to get these plans out there so we can get them out there to the contractors for bid. And we're going to go ahead and push through that now instead of waiting the 75 days in the interest of time, because it'll be cheaper to push now than it will be to wait until the 75 days of closing. So hopefully I'll have better numbers for you, but if I told you a number today, I don't know how good it would be.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mueller, any other questions? Okay. At this time, I would make a motion to authorize and execute the contract for the purchase of property at 2600 Southeast East Circle Drive, Topeka, Kansas, for the use of the future Shawnee County Local Health Department building.
A second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Motion passes 3-0. Thank you very much. Next item.
Item H, Commission number 1, consider changing the commission meeting on July 13th from 9:00 a.m. to 8:15 a.m.
Commissioners, this is a request that's being made to move the meeting earlier to accommodate the request from Visit Topeka and from the Horseshoe. It's for the World Horseshoe Tournament at the Kansas Expo Center. So the request is really being made by Visit Topeka and the Kansas Expo Center so that the commission may be there to throw out the first pitch. Shoe. And so I would make the motion to.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. All opposed. Motion passes 3-0. Our next item.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
Morning, Commissioners. Dusty Nichols, Emergency Management. Just wanted to give you actually give Joe Knight, I know it's painful a little bit to say, heck of a job out there this weekend. Spirit of Kansas went off really well. Sean Osborne, fantastic to work with.
Yeah.
I also give a thanks to, probably going to forget somebody, but Soldier Fire, Topeka Police Department, of course, Shawnee County Sheriff, Topeka Fire, Public Works, Streets, AMR, Parks and Wildlife, Topeka Metro, Dispatch, Kansas Highway Patrol, and there's others that were in the mix there. Also, special thanks to Douglas County, Anderson County, Donovan County, Wabaunsee County, and Lyon County for loaning us, or actually mutual aiding us, the light units for additional public safety. So thank you to everybody that helped public safety, and hope everybody enjoyed the event. And from our perspective, public safety-wise, went off great. So.
Good. Thank you, Dusty.
Commissioner, I'd just like to briefly add that we did receive a draft hockey contract. We got it yesterday. I have not finished reading it yet, but we have a meeting today at 11:30 with H.R. Cook and the attorney for the hockey team, and that's what we'll be doing the rest of the day.
And then that will be then presented to the commission and be part of our agenda for Thursday, so that the public would also have the ability to review it prior to Thursday's meeting.
That's the hope, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, that's been harder than the Iran nuclear deal, I think. Okay.
Absolutely.
I couldn't resist.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Department of Corrections. I think if anybody read the news today that we faced a very tragic incident yesterday or last night at the Department of Corrections. I was contacted about 8:25 of an inmate who was found unresponsive during our normal routine checks in our medical unit. The emergency services were called, and they pronounced the person dead at the scene. I was there last night till about 1 o'clock in the morning, dealing with the KBI who was called in, along with the Sheriff's Office, who are conducting an external investigation. I also will set up a multidisciplinary team who also will be doing an internal investigation as well. Like I said, I worked with the coroner. The investigations are going on as we speak to get enough facts of finding out exactly what was going on. Speaking with the coroner, I do believe there'll be an autopsy today to give us more information, and I do know they're going to be doing a lot of tests, obviously toxicology tests that they said will be about a month for us to get that information. But we had a lot of staff on duty. I want to thank the Sheriff's Office for being there. Also, KBI was there late last night with all of us, and the coroner's office. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of those.
Any questions for Brian?
I just want to add our sympathies to the family and,
Yeah, absolutely.
and appreciate your notification of the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I might note just a thank you for your professionalism and your staff's professionalism, and also for the law enforcement partners as we investigate this incident. So, any other administrative communications this morning? Commissioner Archer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One item in the Spirit of Kansas was outstanding. Thank you to staff for making it so and going above and beyond. I wanted to thank the editorial board of the Capital Journal. In this morning's editorial, growth requires job opportunities. JADO approves economic incentive deals designed to boost employment options. And I think it's good that the editorial board, they understand and tout the importance of retaining jobs in current employers. And I'd just like to say thanks. It's always nice to have positive things come about when there's so much negative tone in our community. So I appreciate the editorial board and what they've said. So that was it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Bueller.
I don't have any.
Just as a reminder, we do have continuing budget hearings. We have made our way through 10 of 36, so we're working our way through. The countdown is still on. So there is a list of the meetings on the website so that those can be reviewed. They are also being broadcast online, so that if you want to watch it at the time or at some later time, that's always an option for you to do so. Next item.
Item 6, executive session.
Do we have a need for an executive session today?
I believe we do, for the purpose of non-elected, discussion of non-elected personnel. not to exceed 5 minutes. I know we start budget at 10 o'clock, but including Betty Greiner and Jim Crow.
Okay. There's been a motion made by Commissioner Bueller that we go into executive session for 5 minutes on the issue of non-elected personnel. I will second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? We are adjourned into executive session. We are back from executive session. No action has been taken. We are adjourned.